Welcome back to Canard Boulevard. Today we're going on a trip down to Florida. I live in Cleveland, so this is a perfect airplane to fly down to Florida. We're going to Lakeland to visit family, a couple weeks after Sun and Fun, unfortunately. And then we're going to head over to Amelia Island, just north of Jacksonville, to visit friends. So come on along on this trip on Canard Boulevard.
972, you coming, are you going out to 19 or are you coming back to the hangars?
I'm going back to 19 there, same day planner.
Go ahead, I'm still warming up.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of a cool day. I think it was about 50 degrees the day we left. So I did have to sit on the ground a little while to get the oil warm enough to take off.
Dyna traffic, experimental cozy, 797 Delta Lima, departing 19. We'll be departing to the south.
My wife is in the back and I'm up front, which means I still have ballast in the plane, plus we have all our luggage and bags and full fuel. So you'll notice the takeoff run is a little bit longer than some other times that you have seen on this channel.
Everything's in green. Airspeed's alive. We're at 30. There's 40. 50. And 60, 65, pressure back. There's 70 and rotate.
Now you will notice I am watching my cylinder head temps here fairly closely. I am still having that cooling issue. We'll be having another video about that in the near future, but because I'm watching the CHTs, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, which is put my gear up. So it takes me a few seconds to realize the gear is still down.
Gear up.
Finally. And now you'll see my cast light come on because of the CHTs that are coming up very quickly in this climb.
Traffic, Skyhawk 972 is on downwind for 19er Medina.
And there you can see it's come on.
Cleveland approach, experimental cozy, 797 Delta Lima, VFR request.
Frontier 2251, turn left direct sure. Frontier 3796, departure to contact climb maintain 14000. 7 Delta Lima, go ahead.
7 Delta Lima is off 1 Golf 5, and we are en route to 6 Juliet 4, leg flight following at 8,500, please.
I see you out there, sir. You're clear of my airspace. Contact Cleveland on 125.5 for that clearance.
25.5, thanks.
Frontier 1918, advise company traffic over circuit 3 and
Cleveland approach, experimental cozy, 797 Delta Lima, VFR request.
Delta Lima, clear.
VFR off of 1 Golf 5, en route to 6 Juliet 4 with like flight following at 8,500, please.
Full call time.
November 7, 907 Delta Lima.
What's the directions, or which way is that airport?
We are 188 direct.
The aircraft identifier again in your type aircraft? Or the airport identifier in your type aircraft?
Type aircraft, experimental cozy, destination is 6 Juliet 4, and it's November 7, 907 Delta Lima.
Now, we are going to make a stop on this leg. We could make it all the way to Lakeland nonstop, but we'd have to pull the speed back, and with some of the headwinds, it would be getting close to our fuel range, and also our bladder range. So we definitely did make a stop. We picked 6 Juliet 4, which is just an airport in South Carolina that had cheap fuel. I just picked it at random based on the fuel prices, and that is where we're cruising to direct, just a straight line right there, 8,500 feet. You can see on the map in the corner there's some convection up to one side. That was actually not there on the day that we actually flew. That was just showing on the day that I recorded this track. So it was actually severe clear, nice clear day like you see. We're going along at 8,500 feet, and now we're into the mountains. This is a little bit of a, not dicey, but you have to pay attention to where the airports are, because if you do have an issue, you want to make sure you know where that nearest airport is, because there aren't a lot of them in the mountain areas here. And now we're up over the Blue Ridge Mountains, and you can see here's Grandfather Mountain, which is the highest one in the area. And I just love looking around at these mountain ranges because it's so beautiful. This is West Virginia that we're flying over here, just about to hit into South Carolina, and you can see the terrain ahead of us is reaching up to 6,000 feet, which is why we are flying at 8,500, because we want to clear those mountains. You will recall that I was having some cabin heat issues. I put new cabin heat system in here, and I wasn't feeling any heat, but it turns out that the reason I wasn't feeling the heat is because I had it selected to put it to the back. The heat is actually working extremely well, so my wife is now warm when she wants to be warm.
How you doing?
I'm all right. When do we land?
19 minutes.
Where do you see time on there?
What?
Where do you see the time? Okay, I thought so. Alright.
How's it been for temperature?
I had to shut the vent. It was blasting hot air.
Oh, why didn't you tell me? Because I could have closed it up here, because I'm pretty warm up here too.
Well, I woke up because I was so hot.
Oh.
It was almost like burning my side.
Okay, well, now we know.
I guess it works.
Yep.
I wonder how long it took until it worked like that, though.
We could always put like one of those orange hoses on the end, so it could like put it anywhere you want.
That's what I was thinking. A hose would be better.
Yeah.
It was down by my feet.
Yeah, I've got one. Like I've got some we can cut, and I can fasten it on there, and then you can put it on your lap or your feet or wherever.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
We'll start our descent in about 5 minutes.
Okay. Yay.
So my wife went from complaining because she was freezing to complaining that she was too hot, but the heat is working great, obviously. So I did set up an instrument approach into this airport, simply as because I was going directly into it. I was due north of it, and we're landing to the south. I thought, well, I'll just set up an RNAV in there, and I can follow that profile in there. You can see I've got the plate up on my iPad there, and I just did a simple RNAV approach just to practice the instrumentation.
500.
As you can see, it is fairly gusty this day. We're getting bumped around a little bit as we get down. I did apologize to my wife later because, well, not much I can do about it, and I did as good as I could to give her a nice, comfortable ride. But there was some heat here, and we were getting blown around. And we are really rock and rolling on short final here, and in a moment you're going to see exactly why, because we are landing on 19, so pretty much to the south. And if you have a look at the windsock as we pass it up here, we have a direct crosswind from the west. So that was part of the reason we had that wind blowing over those trees and giving us a little bit of a gusty ride on short final there. It's also much, much hotter here than it was when we left in Cleveland. I'm still wearing a sweater, and I'm sweltering now. I got to get the canopy open and get this sweater off, because it is quite a bit warmer in South Carolina than it was in Ohio when we took off. So now we'll taxi up to the pumps and refuel. All right, we have filled our fuel tanks and emptied our bladders, met a couple of very nice people that worked at the airport, and now we've got to back taxi the runway.
Blue to counter traffic, experimental 797, Delta Lima back taxiing 19.
Now you'll see me programming a fairly complex flight plan in here, and the reason for that is the next leg has us going in near Tampa, and the President Biden is in Tampa, so there is a giant presidential TFR on top of Tampa, as you can see here, and the airport KLAL, Lakeland, where we're going, is inside that TFR. Now, the inner rings, you can't go there at all. If you try to fly in there, F-16s will have something to say about that. But the outer ring you can go to, but you have to be on a filed flight plan and you have to have a squawk code on your transponder. So that's what I'm doing here. And because there's so many TFRs and restricted areas and MOAs active on this leg, I've got a complex flight plan.
Ready? Fluid County traffic, experimental 797, Delta Lima departing 19. Alright, there's 2150, airspeed's alive, there's 30, there's 40, there's 50, and 60, 65, we'll start to rotate, and there's 70. And positive rate, gear up.
Terrain ahead, pull up.
And you can see my cast illuminator comes on almost immediately for the CHTs. In cruise, the cylinder head temperatures are actually quite good. It's only during climb that I'm having this issue. And like I said, we'll talk more about this in a future video.
Fluid County traffic, experimental 797 Delta Lima departing to the south.
I did mention I had to be on a flight plan, so I've opened that flight plan, and when I do my initial call up here, I'll make sure they know I'm on a flight plan.
Augusta approach, experimental Cozy 797 Delta Lima VFR request.
Here 7 Alpha Sierra, contact Atlanta Center 128.1. You all have a nice day, traffic no factor. Cozy, call on approach, was it 943 Tango Hotel?
It was 797 Delta Lima.
7 Delta Lima, roger, where you at?
Delta Lima is just off of 6 Juliet 4. We're on a VFR flight plan to Lakeland, KLAL, and we are looking for 8,500 flight following, please.
Cozy, 7 Delta Lima, roger. Maintain at or below 4,000 for now, but as heading to your left at 45.
At or below 4,000, 7 Delta Lima.
Now, my original plan was to just go more or less direct. There was actually I was going to go down a little ways, jog over to skip over a restricted area, and then go direct to Lakeland from there. That didn't happen. As I took off, more and more active restriction zones came up. MOAs, or military operation areas, went hot, and so I ended up having to go all the way out east towards Savannah and then down along the coast and then cut back in to go back over Lakeland again, towards Lakeland, towards Tampa. And that added some time to this flight, longer than I expected. It gave us a more scenic ride because we got to go along the coast and see the oceans and so on. But as you can see, my route is anything but a straight line. I was having to go zigzag back and forth through all the different restricted airspace and MOAs and so on that had come active. As you can see, I'm going to show you just here that there was a restricted area that I had to do just another little jog there. You can see just my track there, the black and white X's there as I was skirting around that one restricted area. And then we get close to Lakeland and Tampa where that TFR is in effect. And I have to say, I mean, even though I was doing everything right, I was getting a little nervous flying into a presidential TFR.
03009er, visibility 10, sky clear. Temperature 24, dew point 08, altimeter 3016. Visual approach and use landing and departure runway 10. Notice airman. The terminal ramp is closed excluding taxiing aircraft, and the Waco kitchen is closed until further notice. There's also a TFR in effect, surface to flight level 180.
And as I penetrated the outer ring of that presidential TFR, I took a snapshot of it as a memento because it's the first time I've ever done it.
500, remaining, go direct plant fitting.
Blue, advise initial contact. You have information, Yankee.
7 Delta Lima, let me know when you get Lakeland in sight, 12 o'clock and 12 miles.
7 Delta Lima has the airport in sight.
797 Delta Lima, roger, you can enter the left base for runway 10, just remain on that code and contact contact Lakeland Tower on 124.5.
124.5, thanks for your help. Lakeland Tower, experimental 797 Delta Lima is 10 north, inbound landing 10 Lakeland with whiskey, or rather Yankee.
797 Delta Lima, Lakeland Tower, report 3 miles northwest.
So he said 3 miles northwest. I was flying in. When I was about 5 miles out, he called me up and said, hey, I thought you were going to contact me. And then he actually corrected himself and realized I wasn't 3 miles away yet. And he called my down and gave me clearance to land. So we are going to land here at Lakeland, Florida. This is where Sun and Fun was just a few weeks previous. And you'll see the green and red dots on the taxiway, which is used as a landing runway during Sun and Fun.
797 Delta Lima, the winds are 060 at 9 gusts 15, view traffic departure roll.
7 Delta Lima.
This is considerably less stressful than flying in here during Sun and Fun because you basically get the airport to yourself and they give you vectors and they put you on your pattern and you just land, and just like any other airport rather than a stream of hundreds of airplanes landing all at the same time like happens at Sun and Fun.
Landing brake.
Jet 30 Golf Juliet heading 360, Tampa's next 199, have a good flight.
Okay, 360 over to Tampa now for 30 Golf Juliet, thanks.
I do have to exit this runway at the far end because that's where the FBO is that I'm going to, so you'll notice that when I do land here, I'm landing fast and I'm kind of letting it float and just using up some of that runway so that I don't have to taxi all the way down to the far end. Plus it's a little bit gusty, so I want to keep some speed in.
500.
Passenger carriage, which is sweet. Good. A little gusty, so we're going to keep it in.
And now I'm down, and we're going to taxi all the way to the far end and contact ground, and they're going to direct us over to Sheltair. I do have to give props to Sheltair. That's the FBO we use there. They couldn't have been nicer. What a nice group of people. They really took care of us. They went and got our rental car from the terminal for us, and they took it back at the end, and they did everything for us. They were just fantastic. And look where they parked us next to us, a set of T-45 Goshawks. These are the Navy jet trainers. These are really kind of cool airplanes. They look like miniature Phantoms almost because of the way the tails kind of droop down at the back, the horizontal stabilizers. They are a single engine carrier capable aircraft. They can land these on carriers and do so for training. So of course I took advantage of being parked next to these airplanes to get some great pictures, wouldn't you? So here we are in Lakeland, Florida. My in-laws live here, so we're down there visiting them, spent some time at the pool. We went to Dinosaur World, which is this I thought it was going to be corny, but it was actually kind of cool seeing all these dinosaur sculptures, life-size sculptures. It really gives you a sense of like, we would have no chance if these were on the world today. He's my height. Would you like to see that coming at you in the woods? No, thank you. So we spent some time there, spent some time driving around the golf court, and we saw some interesting creatures like these sandhill cranes that just seem to walk around everywhere. We definitely don't have these at home. All right, several days have passed. We're rested and refreshed, and we're back at Lakeland Airport. We're going to fly to Fernandina Beach Airport to visit friends of ours. This is just a little over an hour of a flight. They are just north of Jacksonville, so we'll get ready for our departure here at Lakeland.
And Lakeland Tower, experimental 797, Delta Lima is ready to go, 10.
797 Delta Lima, Lakeland Tower, runway 10, clear for takeoff on course.
Clear for takeoff, 797 Delta Lima.
It always feels a bit weird taxiing onto these massive runways that can handle huge airplanes in my tiny little cozy. I don't need anywhere near about this type of runway, but it's fun nonetheless.
All right, 2160, everything's in the green. Wow, is it hot up here today. Airspeed's alive, there's 45, and there's 50. There's 60, wow, we got a bit of crosswind here, and let's rotate. We got positive rate, let's gear up. These are hot already.
My in-laws were watching, so as we got a little altitude and pulled even with the terminal, I gave them a little wing wag just to say goodbye, and they definitely did see it, so I was glad of that.
Be at VFR at 6,500 up to Echo Kilo Yankee with flight following.
Flight following will be once airborne with Tampa on 119.9. Go ahead and contact ground for taxi.
It was pretty bumpy underneath this broken ceiling, so I was waiting for it to clear up a bit so I could climb up and give my wife a much nicer ride, because she was not enjoying it much in back, all these bumps.
I'm climbing now, so this should cool off a little bit.
Alright, I'm really sick feeling.
Yeah, I'm trying to get up above these clouds now, so that should calm it down a bit.
Alright, I hope so.
So I was now climbing up, and I did have to do a little bit of threading left and right to make sure I was maintaining my cloud clearance. And basically because I really didn't want to do a high performance climb just because of my CHT issue in climbs. But the clouds were amazing to see. I love flying in and around the clouds. They're just so beautiful. And once we got above, of course, it did smooth out and gave us a nice ride all the way to Fernandina Beach. However, approach did keep us quite high until the last minute, which meant I had to lose a lot of altitude very quickly, and that means I had a lot of trouble getting down and slowing down at the same time.
All right, gear extension speed. Gear coming down.
Y'all have a good day, John.
Fernandina Beach, experimental 797 Delta Lima, final 09, full stop.
This is the same runway I landed at the first time I came to this airport, and it's a little unnerving in the pattern because you spend a lot of time at low altitude over gator-infested swamps.
And gear is down and locked. Get some speed out so I can get the brakes out.
It's again because I got dumped by approach. I'm carrying way too much speed in here, so I needed to get my speed down to the landing brake extension speed so that I could actually extend it to help me slow down.
Speed brake down.
Fernandina Beach traffic, Kurt track 664, entering left downwind runway 09 on the 45, Fernandina.
And once again, you can see it's a little bit gusty, and I'm getting blown around a bit, and you'll notice that once I get down on short final, it only increases, and that's, you know, it's just a fact of life in the summer heat that you're going to get blown around on short final.
And for Fernandina Beach traffic, 454 Golf Bravo Falcon, we're probably about 10 miles to the northwest, inbound for landing runway 9, Fernandina Beach.
$500.
And at this point I realize I'm still getting blown around even more than I thought, so you'll hear me increase the power a little bit because I want to keep the speed up, just because if I do hit a gust that slows me down, I don't want to fall out of the sky.
The traffic that's 10 miles to the northwest, what's your ground speed? We can extend the downwind if we need to.
We're doing about 176 across the ground right now, and we're showing, looks like about 8 mile left base, runway 9.
All right, we got you in sight. We're just a little archer here in the downwind. We'll extend our downwind and follow you guys in. We got you in sight.
Yeah, we appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
Hey, it's gusty on shore final.
That was me on the radio there, just warning those other two airplanes in the pattern that, hey, it's kind of gusty down here.
And Fernandina Beach traffic, Falcon 454 Golf Bravo is about a 3 mile final, runway 9, Fernandina Beach.
Fernandina Beach, experimental 797, Delta in the clear of 09er.
And now time to taxi in and see our friends who were actually at the terminal watching the landing, and we headed over to their house and had a nice visit. Got to visit with their dogs, went out to have a nice lunch, and saw this egret. Yeah, he got one. He's good. Yeah, how he's going to eat it. Oh, just swallowed a whole. Here I am with my friend Heather at the airport next to my plane. Heather's more than a friend. Over 30 years ago, she was my very first flight instructor that took me from zero to commercial multi-engine instrument pilot. So she's remained a friend. So of course we went up for a flight. This is her first time in a small airplane in many years because she's used to flying airliners, and I know she has some time in Learjets. So we took her and her son up for a flight up the coast and back, and they both really quite liked it. So that was amazing to get to fly with Heather again after all these years. Her husband flies for UPS, and now they're talking about getting an airplane as well, so that's great. I want to talk about this part of the trip separately because I think it's really important. We flew into Fernandina Beach on a Saturday. We left Lakeland on a Saturday morning, got there about lunchtime, and went out for lunch, got to see bird fishing, and the plan was to hang out on Saturday, visit, and then Sunday morning, we're gonna load up the plane, head home because I had to work on Monday. No problem, the weather looked good for Sunday. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was good. So that was the plan. Sunday morning rolled around, checked the weather. It wasn't great, but it was passable. The ceilings were a bit low early on, 4,000, 4,500 feet. There's a couple places where it's 3,500 feet, but I thought, okay, well, it's Florida. The ground is low. We can fly at 3,500 feet. It's not going to be nice. It's going to be kind of bumpy, but later on we can get up above it. And the tops were 9,000, 9,500 feet over top of the mountains. No problem. We'll just get up high above that and straight shot home. At home, the weather again, we had some 6,000, 5,000 foot ceilings. We can get underneath that, no problem, and get in and land. VFR all the way, no problem. I really need to get my IPC done so I can file IFR again. The low ceilings where we were, kind of a first strike, but you know, we can get past that, get up over it, and it's fine. Then I started seeing mountain obscuration. Mountain obscuration means the mountains are higher than the clouds, so the clouds are obscuring the mountains. We can't get under those clouds because you'll fly into a mountain. Now we would be flying on top of the clouds, so not a big deal, but what happens if we have to go down? What happens if, God forbid, an engine failure, but what if a precautionary landing? We're screwed because the clouds are lower than the mountain tops. So I thought, okay, I'm not comfortable flying there, so let's try to find something else. There was a front with some convective activity coming in from the west, and if we did fly west, we could get in before that got there and get around some of that mountain obscuration, and the front was actually going to be pushing in at home, so we need to get it out fairly early before that front came through. So now we're trying to go west, and it's almost an extra 100 miles, so it's not an insignificant detour to get around this mountain obscuration. And now I'm seeing the ceilings at home starting to come down, and I'm thinking, okay, now I'm getting stressed about this flight. I'm looking at the weather, and I'm trying to figure out ways I can make this flight work with the weather we're handed. Then I saw a PIREP come up from Akron-Canton Airport, and that's only a few miles from my home airport. In fact, when I go into my home airport, I usually use Akron-Canton's altimeter and winds for my airport. It's that close. And I saw a PIREP there from a CRJ who said he had low-level wind shear. And I thought, you know what? That's strike three. I don't think I want to do this flight. And as soon as I made that decision, as soon as I decided we're not going, all this stress just lifted from inside me. And as soon as I felt that, I'm like, okay, that was get home-itis. I was trying to push my weather in order to get home, to get to work the next day. And I wasn't even realizing it. I was trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? How can I get this weather? And it wasn't until I literally felt the stress go away, and I'm like, that was the right decision. And so we stayed an extra day, which is why I got to go flying with Heather. That's the day we went flying, and it was nice around there, so we just went up and blasted around a bit and had some fun. The weather on Monday was considerably better. There were some lower ceilings, but far, far better than the day before. That front that had all the convective activity had moved through overnight, and it was clear sailing all the way home. All right, fueled up, ready to go. The plan is to fly to 6 Juliet 4, the same airport in South Carolina that we stopped on the way down.
Coordinated traffic, Bonanza crossing 422 on Bravo.
Fernandina Beach, experimental cozy 797 Delta Lima, departing 13 Fernandina.
Dina traffic, Pilatus 42 November Papa, crossing runway 422 at Bravo, Fernandina Beach.
Dina traffic, Bonanza crossing 927.
59. There is 65. And rotate. Positive rate. And no remaining runway, gear up.
Dina traffic, Pilatus 42 November Papa, is clear, runway 422 at Bravo, Fernandina Beach. Taxi to the FBO.
I have to say, I could really handle living in this area. Not only do they have a beautiful airport with just beautiful weather almost all year long, it's also really a beautiful place to be. It's beautiful on the ground, it's beautiful from the air, everything is beautiful here.
Traffic, Pilatus 42 November Papa, crossing 9027. Fernandina.
Fernandina 3370 Victor, turning final for runway 13 Fernandina.
Fernandina traffic, experimental cozy 797 Delta Lima, departing to the north.
One downside is the airspace is complex. There's a lot of military and restricted areas, and there's so much traffic. I'm used to Ohio, where you can fly and there is nobody on ADSB and you're all by yourself. No restricted areas, no airspace to worry about. So it's very different than being down here, but it's nice.
Traffic, Pilatus 42 Papa, clear 9027. Fernandina Beach.
You don't see this in Ohio, where you're just flying along. You see a nice beachfront and people in boats, and it's just, you can see the Fernandina Beach Airport in the background there. They have 3 runways in a triangle shape, so you've always got a good runway for the wind. Just a nice area. Maybe I should leave Ohio. I don't know. It's nice there, but this is nicer.
Jacksonville approach, experimental 797 Delta Lima, VFR request.
797 Delta Lima, Jack, what's your destination, type experimental?
797 Delta Lima is experimental cozy, destination 6 Juliet 4, we're looking flight following 8,500.
797 Delta Lima, altimeter 3016, squawk 1066.
1066 and 3016 for 7 Delta Lima.
Cozy 7 Delta Lima, radar contact 4 North Fernandina, say altitude.
7 Delta Lima, climbing 2,700 for 8,500.
Thank you.
So this is where things changed a little bit. The weather was pretty much as expected, and you can see I'm well above the clouds here and remain so for pretty much the rest of the trip. However, the original plan was to go to 6 Juliet 4. stop, refuel, go to the bathroom, take off, and go again. However, as I was flying, I noticed more and more clouds being reported in that area, that mountainous area, and I thought, I don't want to descend through clouds and then not be able to get back up on top like this, because otherwise we're going to be stuck below the clouds in the chop, and it's not going to be nice for anyone. Plus, we had a 30-knot tailwind. We were just zooming along. I saw speeds in excess of 190 knots across the ground, and I didn't really want to waste that by descending all the way down from cruise altitude to 6 Juliet 4 and then climbing slowly all the way back up again, which is going to just take a bunch of extra time. So I told my wife, hey, you know what? We're staying up here. We're going to do it all in one. And I mean, even with that, we were only looking at about 3 hours and 35 minutes with the ground speeds that we were seeing from those tailwinds. So that wasn't bad at all. As it turned out, by the time we got to the mountains, which as you can see what we're over right now, those clouds had actually evaporated. So don't tell her, but we probably could have landed at 6 Juliet 4 after all, because those clouds that they were reporting, they simply weren't there when we got there. And I was hoping she didn't notice at the time, and she didn't. I love the mountains of West Virginia. They look like grass almost, but we're at 9,500 feet, so those are actually trees down there. And it's just rolling, endless trees like that. Beautiful to see. As I always do, I kept checking the weather as we were going, and I noticed the cloud cover starting to increase, so I decided that we probably need to get down below that before we get into Cleveland, just in case it continues to increase and we don't want to be stuck on top, not being able to get down and land. So I probably came down underneath it into the bumps and the chop a little earlier than we had to, which wasn't too pleasant, but we made it all right. Now this is where it gets interesting.
Medina traffic, experimental 797 Delta Lima is left base, 27, full stop.
Coming in here to land, the winds were reported favoring 27, so the westbound runway, and that was both at Cleveland and in Akron. So if I figured both the airports to the north and the south are reporting winds from 27, then that's also what's going to be showing here at Medina. So I am lining up for runway 27. Nobody else on the frequency, nobody in the pattern, so lining up for 27, that's exactly what I should be doing, and that's what I'm doing here to land.
And Medina traffic, experimental 797 Delta Lima, final 27, full stop.
So I know the wind is coming right out of the west, pretty much down, straight down runway 27, so I shouldn't have any real issues here at all. However, it's going to get interesting here in a moment, and you'll see something that I didn't notice at the time, but it's very clear once I line up with the runway here.
Oh, come on. Okay.
500.
We gotta keep some speed in here because it is really gusty. Undercarriage, good. Gas, undercarriage, switches, seat belts.
And why did I say, oh, come on? Because the airplane wasn't turning in properly. And why was that?
This is gonna be fun.
That was because the wind is actually coming from the south. I have a 90-degree crosswind on this runway, and if you see here, I'm actually flying crabbed, and it's not just a little bit of wind either. It's 15 knots, and 15 knots is the demonstrated crosswind capability of this airplane, so I am at its limits here for crosswinds. Look at the crab I'm having here, and of course it's gusty, so I'm getting tossed around as well as having to do this crosswind correction. So let's watch and see how I pull this one out of the bag. Watch the movement of the control stick as I get close on short final here. You can see I'm getting blown all over the place. I'm having to make some fairly large corrections, and some of those were at maximum aileron deflection corrections. So there's the first landing, there's the second one, and I got it down. That was not fun.
Whoa!
I almost went around on that landing. When I hit a couple of those max aileron deflections, I thought, wow, we're at the limits here, but definitely not beyond the limits, obviously, because I did land it and it was fine. So not a huge issue, but yeah, that was a sporty landing. And it was only when I was taxiing back and got a look at the windsock, I realized why.
Medina traffic, experimental 797 Delta Lima, clear of 27. Well, that was exciting. Jesus Christ, look at the windsock. No wonder that was so rough. That was a direct crosswind landing.
Down, and I was at the fuel pumps refueling. I was talking to another pilot who'd been flying there all morning, and he told me that winds actually were directly down 27 for quite some time. However, within the last hour, it had switched to the south, almost 90 degrees, and he said it was fluctuating back and forth. And sure enough, about another half hour after that, the wind was favoring 27 again. So it was really kind of a crazy wind day, and we really do need to get an AWOS at this airport so this kind of thing doesn't go on. I suppose I could have overflown the airport and looked at the windsock to begin with, but the fact is that the other airports in the area were reporting westerly winds, and I had no reason to think that there was anything other than a westerly wind here in Medina. But if we can get an AWOS here on the field, that will make me really happy. A field this size really does need an AWOS, because the airports nearby that do have weather reporting capabilities are just not close enough to this airport. I've talked to the town officials, I've talked to the airport officials. They all know, they all are trying for the same thing, but if we do get an AWOS in here, it will definitely improve the safety of this airport.
Medina traffic 797 Delta Lima is crossing 19.
So this was the end of our Florida trip. This is exactly the type of thing that I got this airplane for, to be able to do these trips to go see friends and family in faraway places. There's no way that we would ever drive down for this type of trip. And having this small airplane that has long legs and gets you places relatively quickly is just a game changer. It's a time machine. We literally flew from Florida to Ohio, door to door, in under 4 hours. No TSA, no baggage check, no parking, none of that. We just go when we want. We aren't beholden to an airline schedule. I can't express how much I love general aviation and being able to fly it yourself. Now, I do have obviously some CHT, the cylinder head temperature issues still to deal with. That will be coming in upcoming videos, but I wanted to get a flying video back up because it's been so long since I did a trip video like this. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below, and please click like on this video. It really helps me out when you do that. As well, subscribe to the channel. You get notified every time I post a new video to the channel. Thanks so much for watching.